Hello, Ralph Sinkay here, Visible Proof, Part 6. Now we are going to consider every aspect of Billy Lovelady and look at every known picture of him. This picture was taken by Robert Groden. It was taken some years after the assassination, and the purpose was for Lovelady to show us that he was indeed the doorway man. It is supposedly the same shirt he wore that day. Notice that the shirt looks rather tight on him. It's unbuttoned, but not as unbuttoned as Doorway Man's was for some reason. And it is also very obvious that the margins of the shirt were ironed over. That is not a lapel. It is not a pseudo-lapel. That is not something that rolled over naturally by itself. That was ironed over. He may have even starched it. It is not the natural lay of the shirt, and you can tell it's not because look at that button. If that button were secured as was intended, that space that you're seeing would go away. And why would anyone wear a shirt like that? Who wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'll iron my shirt over into a goofy look? And that was most certainly not the way he wore it on the day of the assassination. And to prove it, let's go back and look again at his picture from that day. Here it is. Do you see how his collar is flipping up? It isn't ironed down as in the previous picture. In this picture, there was no unusual ironing at all. His shirt is not artificially spread open. This is just a regular shirt worn the regular way. You can barely see his t-shirt. On the right you can't see it at all, and on the left you can barely see it. And by the way, I blew the picture up, and his t-shirt does seem to be round-necked. Now we compare Doorway Man to the staged Lovelady, but first I want to comment about Professor Megan Newth, who writes for Professor John McAdams on his website. Dr. Newth, who has written about the Doorway Man, has said in reference to the staged Lovelady that the picture was consistent with all the pictures that were taken on the day of the assassination. Well, that reminds me of those picture games in the magazines where they show you the same picture twice, side by side, and there are subtle differences between the two, and you're supposed to try to find them. It can be fun. But I have a feeling that Dr. Newth would not be very good at that game because he seems to think that these two pictures match just fine. Let's compare. First, you easily see that Lovelady's shirt fits tightly, snugly, whereas Doorman's fits loosely. Lovelady's shirt is stiffly ironed, maybe starched, whereas Doorman's looks rumpled and disheveled. Lovelady's t-shirt is round-necked, Doorman's is v-necked. Every time we've seen Lovelady, his t-shirt has been round-necked. Doorman's shirt is almost completely unbuttoned, whereas Lovelady's shirt is only partially unbuttoned. And finally, the margins of Doorman's shirt rise almost vertically, whereas the margins of Lovelady's shirt go off at an angle. And the reason they go off at an angle is because they were ironed over. When you iron it over, you produce an angle. It's unavoidable. Here's the only other picture of Billy Lovelady. It was taken shortly after the assassination. He died right before he was to testify before the House Subcommittee in 1979. He died of a fatal first heart attack at the age of 42. The heart attack rate for men in their early 40s is 6.7 per 10,000. But that includes all heart attacks and not just fatal ones. And note that most first heart attacks are not fatal. The odds of him having a fatal first heart attack were less than 1 in 10,000. And notice how fit he looks. He's muscular, well-proportioned, not the least bit fat, and that would have lowered his risk even more. So I think it's likely he was killed to silence him. And by the way, when he posed for that staged picture, he had to know he was engaged in a fraud, because he knew he didn't go to work that way. Why did he do it? Did they bribe him? Did they threaten him? Who knows? But he is just one of over 100 strange deaths in the assassination of President Kennedy. Google it and see. In the next video, it may seem like the Addams Family was perched at the entrance of that building that fateful day. So please watch it.